Hello, my case study is titled Using Incremental Rehearsal to Teach Vocabulary. My target student is Dominic, who is a third grader, and despite the specifically designed instruction that Dominic has received within the past year, he was making minimal progress towards comprehending grade level text. The purpose of this action research is to determine the effectiveness of using the evidence-based intervention incremental rehearsal, which is otherwise known as IR, to teach vocabulary within an instructional text. Specifically, the research question is, does the use of IR to teach vocabulary lead to increased reading comprehension for a student with an SLD in reading? The IR intervention introduces unknown vocabulary with known vocabulary words with a ratio of 10% unknown and 90% known in order to provide an errorless approach for the student as well as spaced practice in order to increase long-term retention. The target student, Dominic, demonstrated consistently increased comprehension scores after the intervention was implemented. At the time of the study, Dominic was an 8-year-old third grader and was initially certified for special education services under the eligibility of specific learning disability in reading for fluency and comprehension. And prior to the fall of his third grade year, he attended a different school. And according to the reports and his pre-assessments in the beginning of the year, it indicates that he's performing within a first grade level, so 2 years below grade level, especially in the areas of vocabulary and comprehension, placing him within the 8th percentile when compared to same age peers. Dominic was chosen because he was not making adequate growth in this area. Therefore, IR was researched and implemented. The most prominent studies that influenced my decision to intervene in this way begin with a study by Macquarie, Tucker, Burns, and Hartman from 2002. And their study showed that the IR intervention led to more words retained over time than other approaches being used. Additionally, Macquarie is an interventionist or someone who does the professional development in our school district's county. So within Oakland County, she provides professional development, and I had already attended her explicit instruction series as well as a reading strategy series with her. And I came across IR right around the time we had to do the case study. So I asked her and invited her to come in to show me IR, and she happily accepted, came in and showed me with a different student prior to the intervention how to implement it and how it works, because in writing it didn't all make too much sense. So with her experience and knowledge and her advisement on using the IR intervention really led me to wanting to do more research and to see for myself how beneficial it was for my students. And knowing the time commitment of it, I still wasn't sure. I didn't know it would take as much time as it did. I am happy I did because it really did help my student. So in addition to her research there's also research done by Burns, Hodgson, Parker, and Fremont, and they found that pre-teaching vocabulary in the text using IR led to significantly higher rates of comprehension. And additionally, the power of IR intervention is in the sequence of presentation, and that is from a research done by Joseph from 2006. And here is another quote here by Macquarie. Several repetitions of new words are achieved by presenting the new word, pronouncing it, and defining and using the new word in a sentence. After the initial instruction, the new word is rehearsed 9 times, following the procedure of IR. So the IR procedure is to ensure that there are 9 known and unknowns throughout. So I had the student do a cold read. And during that cold read of a text, which is a text slightly above the student's instructional level, I recorded any known and unknown words up to 9, and then the student would stop there. After that, we would begin on day 2, the IR intervention, where the first unknown word was presented, as well as a 1 to 2 word definition. I would model it used in a sentence, and then the student would have to repeat the definition in 1 to 2 words and use it in a sentence themselves. And after that, another known word would be shown, and then unknown, known, unknown, and then you'd add the known, and it would keep going in that procedure. And all that's needed for this are the 2 recording sheets, which I'll show you in just a moment, note cards, as well as something to write with. Here are the 2 documents. Here's a conference sheet I used to record the known and unknown vocabulary with the 1 to 2 word definition, and then any observation notes, and then the comprehension questions conference sheet. So on day 1, I'd have the student do the cold read. I would record the known and unknown words, and then I'd ask the student to answer the closed questions and open questions based on what they to see what Dominic comprehended from that first read. After IR was implemented on day 2, then he would read the text again and answer these questions. The data shows the results from his first pre-assessment, first baseline, and then I also compare the pre and post test from this within the 3 weeks of intervention. So first, the total comprehension scores out of 12 points in this baseline data. So this shows when given a text within his instructional level, his comprehension rate. So this would be 6 out of 12. And again, here, and then 8 out of 12 and 7 out of 12. The intervention data, the total comprehension score is out of 12 points. So overall, his comprehension score significantly increased. Here, it includes the comparison of baseline data and intervention data by percentage. And here it shows the pre-assessment and post-assessment data based on the 3 weeks of intervention data. So his cold read and his comprehension, and then on the 3rd day after IR was implemented, his comprehension of text, to really see how it affected his comprehension. If I were to do this intervention again, I would probably skip this pre-assessment data and be able to implement IR more times and actually have the IR intervention span over 2 days, because the student was pretty tired and it took quite a while to get through the IR intervention itself with all 9 unknown words and to expose them to all the known words as well. And if I were my recommendation moving forward is that Dominic continue this intervention. However, I'd like to train his classmates or volunteers to help ensure that this is able to be implemented due to the time commitment. And that any research that I'd like to see moving forward is how to implement this within a small group setting. So of course it would have to be within instructional groups with students who have the similar known and unknown vocabulary words, but how could this be implemented within small group settings rather than individually, so that this could actually be an intervention that benefits many students, as I have many students who are struggling in vocabulary.